Hello, and welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast with your host, peak performance coach, Brian Bosley. Are you stuck on the hamster wheel of life, spinning and spinning, but not really moving forward? Are you ready to jump off and soar? Are you finally ready to sculpt your life? If so, you've landed in the right place. This podcast is created and broadcast just for you. All of you strivers, thrivers, and survivors out there. If you'd like to learn more about Brian and the Bamboo Lab, feel free to reach out to explore your true peak level at www.bamboolab3.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Bamboo Lab podcast. I'm excited to have you on here this week. We've got an amazing guest. Actually, somebody I've gotten to meet face to face, which is really rare for most of my guests. I got to meet this gentleman a few years ago. We were in a wedding together. And here's the reason I reached out to. We have Kent King on here today. And I'll share a little bit about Kent before I introduce him officially. But I'm on social media a lot because we promote the podcast. I promote my coaching practice a lot on social media. And I see so much garbage on social media. Political rants, people bitching and complaining about their current life, complaining about family. And some things are just benign things like what they're having for dinner. Doesn't interest me. I don't care, but it's not bad stuff. But then every once in a while, you see these people who put on positive stuff, things that are uplifting. And I was going through a couple of weeks ago, like scrolling. I'm like, every time Kent's stuff comes up, I'm like, I read it. I'm going, that's good stuff. So I thought, why not reach out to him? So thankfully, he took time out of his busy schedule and he said, yeah, I'll come on. And so today we have Kent King on, folks. And I'm going to share a little bit about Kent first. Personally, Kent is a teacher. He's a business owner, a success coach, but he's also a volunteer firefighter on the side. So he's got a pretty busy, tight schedule. Now, personally, he is a constant work in progress, self-proclaimed work in progress. He is the father of three, and he feels that through his sheer perseverance, he has been able to overcome many of the trials he's had in his life, and he'll share those with us. He finds the positives through each one, and it helps him to overcome and to continue to build the future he desires for himself and his family. He believes that people are capable of accomplishing amazing things, and I amen to that. But that we often fall victim to the excuses that we create for ourselves due to our limiting beliefs. I'm looking forward to that part of the conversation. He has turned his passions in his life to now spreading positivity and inspiration everywhere he goes and helping people really to get them out of their damn comfort zones. And what I like the best about learning about Kent is that he believes fully in the grind of life. Couldn't agree more. So without further ado, Kent King, my friend, welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast.
Hey, thank you, Brian. A pleasure to be here. I'm excited to kind of dive in, have a conversation about anything and everything.
Well, we'll do that today for sure. We might go off on a tangent, Kent, but that's okay. I've been off on many tangents. So it's funny that we live where I'm not there very often, but we live only a few miles apart, but we've only met each other the one time, I believe.
Yeah, it was for, Jason's wedding there. And it was one of those, I guess it's one of those things where busy lives both of us live to where we're really far apart as far as being able to talk and connect, but very close by.
Well, the fact that I'm not up there anymore, other than maybe a week or two out of the month, it's like now we actually get to know each other better. But what we'll do is we'll have to get together, and when you're in a wedding together, it's not like you get to spend a lot of quality time. It's like there are a lot of things you got to do. You got to dance. You got to walk the aisle. You have to speak. You got to have some beers. I mean, there's not a lot of opportunity to really get to know each other. So I'm glad we're able to do so now.
Yeah, no, that was, it's hard to, really have a conversation, get to know people, and you have pictures and all this stuff.
Well, the one thing was the beers too.
Oh yeah.
I'm not much of a drinker anymore, but that was back in the day where I was still having a little more fun than with beer than I do today. So So let's, Kent, I've gotten to know your story pretty well over the years. Obviously, not as well as I'm hoping to over the next several years. But can you tell us about yourself, your childhood, your family, growing up, who or what inspired you, whatever you want to share about your life, like growing up?
Yeah. So, and you talked about tangents, so I'm going to try to not go on too much. But I was born in Gladstone, Michigan, UP, small town. And kind of growing up, family got divorced. And I think that was the first part where, for me personally, that was the first trial. And I found myself kind of really feeling sorry for myself. I kind of considered it, where I was from is like Flat Rock, which is a bunch of farms. And there was, the other kids were on the bluff and they had the nice families with the swimming pools. And I remember kind of growing up through that. It was about 8, 9 years old when they divorced, and kind of growing up, kind of looking at the bluff kids, wishing I had that life, and feeling sorry for myself. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the first trial, because I remember I was overweight, and it was about 8th grade year. I was 285 pounds. Now I'm a pretty big guy. I was about probably 6'3" at that time.
Wait, what year? What grade was this?
8th grade.
In 8th grade, you were 6'3"?
About 6'2", 6'3", yeah.
Holy cow! I know you're tall now. I didn't realize you sprouted young.
Yeah, but the problem was I was fat. Let's not beat around the bush. I was fat. I was feeling sorry for myself, and I wanted, I guess, to understand me is to understand that kind of point in my life where I can't say there was any specific situation or, big life event that happened. I just remember one day I got sick of feeling sorry for myself. And, that was the day it was on me. And kind of having that clarity so young, I was probably about 15 at that time, 14, 15 years old. And it just hit me. I was like, I'm in control of this. And that's where, for me, I really started, getting into the weight room and getting in shape, and, all those insecurities that I felt, I started battling them rather than accepting them. And, ultimately for me, that's what got me to, I was fortunate enough to, have a Division I football scholarship out of high school from a small town. And that was kind of my first, I guess, revelation of the mentality that I have today was, kind of that acceptance of I'm in control, and really the outside world, it happens, but I control my happiness. Mm. Then, coming from that, I graduated and went into teaching. And I started, teaching at a public school, high school math. So high school math always, kids love it. They do. And that's where I joined in the volunteer fire department as well. I was able to kind of, once I settled in, it was one of those things with the size and, athletic ability. What did I do with that? And I felt like, being able to kind of contribute to some level of the community was a value. So that's what really got me into that aspect. And I did that for about 5 years. And then, I went through some, I would call it rock bottom. Life happened. And it was really kind of the big second trial of my life, to where I really had to reflect and figure out and kind of work past a lot of things, both externally and internally, and ultimately led me to starting my business and kind of putting me in the position where I am today. And I'd love to go into details, with that especially.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned that was the second trial of your life, Kent. What would you say was the first trial when your parents were divorced, or was when you realized, hey, I need to get my shit together here. I'm overweight, too overweight for my age, and I need to get into the gym?
I think that, the first trial was overcoming, I guess, my insecurities, overcoming just that self-doubt there that, like, I guess putting the blame on other things. Okay. That was kind of the trial. Was I was consumed with blaming life. Life was happening to me and not for me. I think that, that's a Tony Robbins kind of thing there, but it was one of those overcoming that to like get in the weight room and like fight back, I guess.
I love that. I think it's so interesting when you put life in that perspective of trials or stages. And Kent, I was looking through my journal today. Actually, I was going through looking for some ideas, and I journal 5 to 6 days a week. And I was going through. I want to pull it up here. I just got up and grabbed it, so bear with me. Maybe I'll come back to it later. But I had written down just a few weeks ago the 3 stages I've gone through in my life, and it just came to me. And it was, I forget the stage. I know the stage. I forget. And I even put the years. The first stage was survival. It was survival. The second stage was struggles. And the third stage is success. And I've realized, and I started documenting, okay, when did my just surviving life, what years were that in my life? It was like basically from age 4 or 5 to mid-20s and maybe early 20s. And then it was struggles from then until about a few years ago. That I was just, you're just struggling to get to that next level, to overcome the shit you had to survive during that younger part of life or whatever it is. And then you get to that third stage, which starts to become success. No, not everybody does that. And I honor people like you who see life as different trials that you have to overcome, different stepping stones. And if more people can put that mentality into their life and go, I'm not a failure, or my life isn't fucked up simply because I went through some shit. There are just different trials and stages we go through. And the idea is to elevate ourselves through each trial, through each stage, and become stronger and a better person. And that's exactly what you are doing. So question for you that I ask everybody is, I don't care the time frame, but what is a great learning you've had in the last year, 2, 3 years or so? What's a learning that you can really pinpoint that has really stuck with you?
And I love how you mentioned the trials. I see them as seasons. Like I always kind of mention, like, everyone wants to live in summer, but no one wants to go through winter. But, those are just seasons of life. Like, seasons just happen. Like, you can't control them, and you got to live through them. And, but I would say over the last few years, really, the lesson I've learned is that, it truly is only like my beliefs that limit me. And it's only the beliefs that people put on themselves that limit them. And that's something that I think has become more apparent when I'm, growing my business and kind of going into that stage where you have a lot of doubt when you start out. So that's kind of the one lesson that I've really been learning, is that there is truly no limit. If you can overcome that self-doubt and those limiting beliefs that you put on yourself.
Ken, have you ever read, and I agree with you, have you ever read the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks? I
have not.
All right. When we're done today, I'm going to get your address. I'm going to send you a copy. Reading is my favorite hobby. I'm a nerd that way. I always have been since I was a little kid. And so when I think a book is good and it made an impact, it's because it's gone through. I might read 30 books and only one makes an impact on me. This is in the top 5 books of all time that I've read. And he talks about exactly what you're talking about. So the book is called The Big Leap, and it's about how do you overcome what he calls your upper limit problems. Like the self-imposed glass ceilings, like you called it, your belief limits. And we go through these stages of the things we do. And his idea is we all need to work in our genius zone, where it's something that we're doing things that we love to do things we excel at, and things that make the most contribution to the people around us while we're doing those things, and how very few small percentage of people reach that level of genius level because they hit these upper limit problems, these, like you said, self-imposed belief limitations. And he was actually on the podcast a year and a half ago, I think he was. And one of the most downloaded podcasts we've had, not the number one, but up there in the top. And he shared some amazing content and beliefs. And this guy he's a master at getting people to live that life. So he has a book out now that just came out 3 weeks ago called Your Upper Limit Year. Your Big Leap Year. And it's a daily exercise you go through and helping you define that. I would highly recommend that book to anybody out there. It takes about 5 minutes of work every day to help you overcome some of these self-limiting beliefs. So I'm going to send you a copy. So we'll talk about that after we're done here, though, because it's an honor to send that book to anybody.
I appreciate it.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. And I think you could use that with your clients, with anybody you're working with on a consistent basis. I mean, it's so good with your kids. God, it'd be blessed for them to learn that stuff too. So when you talk about yourself, like your belief limits, can you give an example where at a time you overcame something that at one point, Kent, you didn't feel you could accomplish because you had that upper limit or that self-limiting belief that once you believed it, you accomplished it. Is there an example you can share with us?
I mean, I think kind of early on, the first one that I overcame was in high school. Being from a small town, I had, some people like, oh, well, that'd be good if Division II, like achieving a Division I scholarship from a small town. That was kind of the one that really sparked like, oh, look at that. Like I hit the weight room, it was 3 years straight of working. It was the grind, as I kind of mentioned. Like that was where I learned that if you fully dive into something and you commit to it, that you can, it wasn't always easy, but it was the consistency that helped me, achieve those big goals that I had at that time. And, just starting my business, going from like 5 kids because I have a tutoring business for math.
Yep.
And
can you share us the name of that?
Math Recalculated.
Yeah, I like that name.
Thank you. Yeah, and going from like 5 kids starting out to like 10 to 20 to, I think last year we were at 50, 60 we were able to help. So like kind of growing that business and really taking ownership and kind of realizing like, oh, like I can be that person, which I didn't think of myself as being able to kind of start a successful business on my own.
Isn't it crazy though? And you were blessed at a young age. I mean, young relatively, I guess, but in high school, and even when you were in 8th grade, when you decided you were going to start, working out and playing football, or getting in shape because you had this big frame. When you get good at something, when you get that first thing that you realize, I'm actually good at something, and it's something that you're good at, not based on necessarily natural talent, but you got good at it because of the grind and the hard work you put in. When you get that first thing that you're good at, so many people stop there and they live in their glory days the rest of their lives. Some people never really realize that they're good at something, but the person who sucks at something, or maybe they aren't a good fit and they work hard at it and they become really good at something through hard work and grind. And they say, okay, if I did that, I can do the next thing. And I can do the next thing. You start building these steps of confidence that you can get good at other things too as life progresses. You became good in football because you worked hard. Then, hey, I can become a good business owner. Hey, I can become a great dad. I can, you can elevate that up so many times in your life. So the one thing I'm going to recommend to the listener out there right now is think about the thing that you've gotten good at in your life based on hard work. I don't care if it was something in 4th grade. Maybe you won a spelling bee because you studied at it. Take that and say, okay, how did I get good at that? Now, and think of all the things you've gotten good at because you've worked hard. And they might seem minor to you, but they're not. And use those as stepping blocks to the next thing you want to be good at. Because as Kent said, it is all about the grind. And grind isn't a bad thing. We think about grinding. We think about just wear and tear. It's not. grind is a beautiful place to be, because when you are grinding, when you're doing work and you're working hard at something, you're trying to improve yourself in one way, shape, or form, whether it's intellectual, physical, spiritual, financial, whatever it is. It's a beautiful process, man. It is hard work, but it's fun work too. And the fact that you're doing that work makes you a happier, well-rounded person. So a grind isn't just like, you think of it, you think of just wear, tear, horror. There's some of that in there, but most of it, it's a beautiful process. So I love that. I like the idea of, that talking about the belief limits that we have. So anyway, I interrupted you.
No, I loved it. Quick story that just popped in my head for that is actually, that all sounds great, but I will say there was a point, it was my freshman year of shot put, and this is kind of the competitive chapter of my life with sports, but my freshman year of shot put, I started winning all these varsity meets, and I started just beating everyone. And I remember it was a Tuesday meet. I won the conference, out through all the seniors and all that stuff. And that Thursday was a freshman sophomore, like a JV meet. And I remember going into that bus, like pulling up and going, I got this in the bag. Like, it's done. It's already done. I already beat all their varsity players. And I took third place that day. And this is, I guess, something to kind of to learn more about me is, like, I remember looking at our athletic director, who was our coach, Matt Hool, and I told him, I'm never losing again. Like, I'm never losing again. And, I was a freshman, and he was like, haha, yeah, but that medal, and I went on to never lose again in high school. We were in the UP, so yeah. I'm sure if I went bigger, I definitely would have lost. Not saying I was the greatest, but it was just the competitive of, like, no matter how good someone told me I was, I never bought into it after that day, because I knew what my capabilities and what I was capable of doing. And I didn't need the, I guess, external validation of someone. And I feel like that's for young kids a lot. They get caught up in chasing the opinions of the outside world rather than kind of that internal, setting those limits for themselves. And, that medal, I had 4 UP championship medals. That medal was the only one that hung on my rear mirror in my car, because it was a constant reminder of, as things are going good, as soon as you put your, foot off the gas, it can be gone. And that's where kind of that grind mentality really sunk in for me, because, it's one of those where if you're passionate about what you're doing and you believe in what you're doing, then, I work probably 14, 18-hour days a lot, like Monday through Thursday, but I love everything that I do. I really do. And I feel like, at least I try to make a difference in, whether it's my students that I'm teaching, whether it's the confidence of the students that I have with tutoring, and then also coaching, helping others build their tutoring businesses at this point now. And, every one of those aspects, I feel as though I can make a positive impact in someone's life. So for me, it might be a lot of hours, but I guess I have that passion behind me to just keep getting better and keep driving. And I love the grind. I want to keep getting better.
Well, what I like about it is when you think about the grind, I'm a big fan of do something that makes you uncomfortable every day. And that can be a number of things. It could be getting up at 4:30. It can be, cold plunges, cold showers, working out, a number of things. But and we live in a society where we are so uncomfortable with discomfort, and you can't grow without a third place medal. You could never get a first place medal without a third place medal. You have to fail. You have to find things that just break you down every day a little bit so you can build up. You have to prove to yourself that, hey, I can get through some hard shit. And that third place medal is a constant reminder for you, where it was that there was a time when I felt pretty damn low about myself, and that motivates you to become uncomfortable, to work those long hours, to keep pushing, to keep grinding, to keep getting better every day for yourself, your family, and for others around you. And I think so many people don't want to go through a discomfortable thing. They want to be comfortable at all the damn time. And it's like, well, great job, man, because you know what? And I hate to say this, but you're going to live, you're going to die, and within a generation, you will be forgotten. And I want people who listen to this show to realize they have everything to offer this world. You got everything. I don't care if you're 8 or 98. You have a lot left in your tank. You have a lot in your tank to leave a legacy, to make a difference. And the only way to do that is to accept the discomfort of life and grow from that discomfort. I mean, I just get disgusted when I talk to people who are just complaining constantly about how hard life is. Fucking life is hard. But life is tough, but be tougher. And that's one thing my mom never told me, but I watched her, and I still watch her to this day. And my mother is 88 and a half years old and still going strong. I watched her live a tough life. She's lost so many loved ones. Loved 3 men, buried 3 men. Over the course of her life, her brothers, her sisters, friends, and just raising kids on her own. And I just look at her and go, she is the epitome of life is tough, but we are tougher if we allow ourselves to be tougher. And we do that through the grind, like you said. Okay, this is a question that I ask everybody, Ken. It's probably the most foundational question that I get asked from audience members to make sure I ask is, what is the most difficult thing you've gone through, or one of them in your life, and then how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so the most difficult thing that I've gone through, I think it was kind of a compound event, I guess. So about 3.5 years ago, actually about 3 years ago now, or 4 years ago, sorry, I found out I was having my son. And when we went to a check-in, we found out that he was going to be born with gastroschisis, which is kind of the intestines and everything's on the outside. And, you know, that was March of 2020. So COVID was just starting to become a thing. And we had to go down to Ann Arbor at the Children's Hospital every 3 weeks and kind of do a checkup to, you know, kind of make sure everything's going. And throughout those kind of check-ins, he was due in July. You know, as it got closer, you know, that reality struck of like, things, you know, there could be complications, there could be things that go wrong. And that stress there, you know, I remember there was the night of, you know, you kind of talked about throwing down the brewskis. It was the night of, we got home from our last check-in before he was, you know, going to be born. And I had, you know, kind of conjured up an excuse to go out because the bars just opened up. So I went out and met a couple buddies. But, you know, that night I drank all my stress away, and it resulted in me getting an OWI. So not only was the stress there, now I'm putting that on Brooke, who, you know, had that. So I had that going. Mm-hmm. Then my son was born, and we had spent 8 weeks in the NICU in Ann Arbor. And we finally got the clear to be able to take him home. So, you know, I kind of had the OWI going, but things were looking good. Our son was coming home. And then also job implications for, you know, my mistake there too. Mm-hmm. So as life started going, he was home for about 10 days and he started having complications. And, so then we went back to the Milwaukee Children's Hospital, and we were there for about a little over a week. And, you know, things were looking good. We were actually talking about possibly getting released the next day. And it was just one of those things where, you know, it turned bad quickly. And we ended up losing him at 2 months old. And, that is by far the hardest thing that I've had to go through. And I think, part of it was like the hope, because there was hope attached and then the hope was taken, and the hope was attached and the hope was taken. And, that I consider kind of being the rock bottom, because once, my son was gone and, I had no job, my son was gone, and it was really one of those points where, there I am, rock bottom. Where do I go from here? And that was by far the hardest thing to deal with.
Whew. Yeah. I remember that time. I remember following you and Brooke on social media, talking to, Shannon and Jason, and, kind of following your journey from a fringe level. And I remember thinking, I don't know how they do this. I don't know how you get through that. And I look now and, dude, I got to tell you, you got my respect. You both do. That's, I don't know that anybody out there listening could say, I can top that as far as a very difficult time frame of your life, a difficulty to go through. And I think it's a lesson for all of us that, we do complain about things that happen in our lives, and I know I do, and I know it's hard to compare, and it's hard to, everything's relative, but at the same time, what you guys went through is the most difficult thing a human being can ever go through in their lives. It is by far the most difficult thing. There's nothing worse, and you survived it, and you've not moved on. That's not a good way to phrase it, but you're both moving forward in life and doing some great things. So, God bless you and God love you for it. How do you get through that? Like, how do you get through, the number one, the emotional up and down, in the hospital, NICU, Ann Arbor, Milwaukee, like you said, hope, is attached and hope is taken. And then you got the OWI, then you lost your job. And then obviously most disastrously lose your son. What is something that got you through that, Kent?
I think it's, it might sound odd to some people, but it's appreciation. I think that's the one thing that in our society today that's very lacking, is appreciating what we have and, where we're at still. Bad things are going to happen. Some are in your control, some are out of your control. But, and I guess my little slogan was, it's a great day to have a great day. Like I firmly believe every day you can, I would say that happiness it can be manufactured, but if you learn to appreciate it, and you might have to manufacture it some days, but you don't have to fake it. I truly enjoy every day that I have. And I think, during that time it was, waking up and though everything seemed to be going bad, I still woke up. That's one of my checklists in my daily, I guess, call it the life. Did I wake up today? Yes. Okay. It's going to be a good day. Not everyone did. And, starting my day off appreciating that fact alone, that I get another day on this earth, kind of start helping me, kind of build something. I was down at the bottom. So, and I think when you hit rock bottom, a lot of people think, the rise kind of happens because they were so low that, people rise up to a level. But I really think it's about building that momentum. And I think when you hit rock bottom, you're stuck. Like, you have to admit to yourself that you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. And, it's those points where some people choose to stay there, and they want to blame the world, blame everything. Kind of, and I think it reflects back to, kind of what I was saying, like way in my childhood, blaming, why can't I be a bluff kid? People, especially with social media, people share all, the illusion that all these great things are happening. And, there's kind of some envy, I guess, when you scroll through of that, people believe that, oh, well, if I was just them, they make excuses for why someone's in a position they would want to be in and they're not. And they validate those excuses internally to themselves to believe that, they're the victim. And yeah, I think waking up kind of with the appreciation every day that I have another day, what am I going to do with it? And kind of building back up that momentum day by day, you start to build up a momentum strong enough to where, you can't really get stopped. Like I truly believe I never want to go through anything like that, but I know life's going to happen and bad things are going to happen, but kind of building up that momentum to know that whatever obstacle is in my way, I'm going to fight through it. Like there isn't, whether I can, it's just how do I do it?
Yeah, and the thing is, I know when you talk about growing up and envying, and you said you felt sorry for yourself, and you envied the bluff kids, and I guess we all probably get what we all understand on here what a bluff kid is. It's people who lived in the bluff and they had typically more money, better houses, and things like that. But I will share with you, this is the 116th episode of this podcast. I've never had a bluff kid on here. And I mean, that's even metaphorical. And the reason I say that is because when I look at people like you, Kent, who are doing great things and you're building momentum. How old are you, Kent?
32.
Jesus. Holy cow. Okay. You got a lot ahead of you then. You got a lot of momentum ahead of you. When you look at people like you, whether, someone's 32 or 82, that I've had a chance to either interview on the show or talk to as a client or a friend or a colleague or somebody I interview for other purposes. Everybody I know who is changing the world and doing amazing things, everybody has gone through some really dark shit. Whether it's as a child, as an adult, you kind of have had a combination of thereof, but when I see people who've had these quote unquote perfectly padded lives, I'm sorry, people, you ain't doing anything. You're not making a huge difference. I mean, you can, but the majority of those people are not. And I think it's during the times when we have our greatest struggles and our greatest strives, we find out who we are and what we're made of and what kind of metal we carry inside. And I think that, those difficult times there's a silver cloud or a silver lining in those clouds, and they can be an unfortunate blessing in our lives if we use them properly. And I've also met people who've gone through a lot of dark times who use those, like you said, dark times as excuses. But I don't see a lot of people who are changing the world. And I know you're out there. I know I'm not saying if you had a great life as a child, trust me, I know you can be doing great things. I'm just saying that for the majority of the people I come in contact with who are doing amazing things, when I really sit and talk with them, whether it's on the show or outside of this, is they have gone through some really difficult times where they had to really look at their lives and reflect and say, how do I get out of this mess? And some are self-imposed messes and some are imposed by an external force. But you kind of had both. And we have, trust me, I have had too, Kent. So for you, like when you look at your life now, Kent, you've got your children, you've got your family, you've got your business. What is a win for you? What do you consider to be a victory?
So it's a great question. What is a win? I think a win is just, for me, like I already kind of mentioned, is waking up, getting another day. And personally, like my wins, I guess, come from making a difference. I have this, I guess, internal, call it, I don't know. It's just internally in me. I want to help people. And I really do. And that's what gets me the most, I guess, the happiest and makes me feel the best is being able to, help these people, like help people out, help my students, help kind of anyone that I can out. And that's kind of a win for me. And that's something that I want to pass on to my children as far as, kind of realizing, like, I think, people like to try to define success is such a tricky thing for win, success. Like, what is that? And, and I know there's a bit of like a financial aspect to it, I think, in the definition of success, if you were to try to define it. But I think more so success is just happiness, is being able to enjoy the day that you have today. That's what I think is the most successful. That's what makes me think, I have a successful life. I enjoy every day, and no one can take that from me. And I feel like that's a win. And, and I worked road construction when I was in college for the summers. And I remember at 4 a.m. I'd be like, "Good morning, guys." And they're like, "Shut up." And, but it was just waking up, just having being here is a win, I think.
Don't you just love mornings?
I do.
I do too. And everybody around me, my girlfriend, my kids, it's like, what the hell is wrong with you? My daughter had to finally put a stop like a month ago. She goes, "Dad, no text before 7 o'clock in the morning, please." Because like this morning I was up at, it was an odd morning. I got up at 3:55 this morning, but that is odd. Normally it's between 5 and 5:30. But when I get up, it's the happiest part of the day. Those first 3 hours are the best part of my day. I don't get up groggy. I just don't. I'm groggy in the afternoon. I get kind of cranky after like 5 o'clock. I'm just like, okay, my day's done. I want to go to bed now. But mornings are like, there's a fresh start to mornings. And people around me like, "God, you're an idiot." Now, and there's some guys at deer camp, guys that that are like that too. Like, they're guys that get up before I do at deer camp, and they can stay up till 2 a.m. and still be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm not quite that guy. I don't go to bed at 2 a.m. I don't know when the last time I've done that. I'm in bed usually by 8:30. So 9 o'clock, I'm ready for bed. So I still get my sleep, but man, I love the freshness of mornings. There's an optimistic side of me that doesn't exist as much and as strongly as it does the rest of the day. But I want to address, because I want to make sure that the audience captures what you said about appreciation. I wanted you to think, everybody, that answer surprised me. When I asked Kent, how did you get through that? That's some difficult, as he calls them, rock bottom moments. And I expected an answer like, well, I self-reflected. I started, you hear a lot of, I go to church, or I started exercising, I started reading, I started going to therapy, I started talking to a pastor. Those are a lot of the answers you expect to hear. His answer was real clear: appreciation. And I want you to think, if appreciation can help Kent get through that difficult, dark time of his life, what can it do for you right now? And it's just waking up, because I've shared this with the audience so many times, is that, we have this little thing in our brain about the size of an almond. It's called an amygdala, and it's part of our brain. And it's designed for us to see scary things. It's designed for us to be warned for danger. And it was necessary as we were a species that was being chased by, wild animals and wolves, and, typhoons were taking out our villages, and other warring tribes were going to come and rape and pillage us and kill us. So it was necessary. We don't have those dangers like we did back then, for the most part. But our amygdala is still there. It hasn't evolved out of our brain yet. So everything we see negative everywhere, because it's biological, it's evolutionary. And for every positive thing that we see in our life and throughout the day, we see 9 negative things. So you think about that, 9 to 1 negative to positive. No wonder so many people are depressed and so many people have such low energy. And if you start practicing appreciation and noticing the good things in life, like simply getting out of bed in the morning, because some people aren't. Some people don't have that luxury anymore. They went to bed and they're not getting out of bed. And so think about that, just that simple act of getting up, and then start looking around life and saying, what other things do I have to be appreciative of? It can be a warm cup of coffee in your hand. It can be the fact that your dog just pissed on the carpet, but you have a dog that loves you. It can be anything. Just look for the good things in life that you can feel gratitude for, because then you start flipping that switch from 9-1 negative. Then you can go maybe 3-1, then 1-1. Then you can start going 3-1 positive to negative. Then you can go to 9-1 positive to negative. And that's where you dramatically improve the quality of your existence, and therefore the quality of life of the people around you. So I love that. I think that's so powerful. Appreciation. So Ken, I'm gonna, if I could drive up to Gladstone, Michigan today, and you and I could jump into a time machine, and we could go off to any phase of your life, any age. Maybe it's a time when you needed today's Kent, and you're talking, the person you are, the man you are today. At one point, you needed that man to give you a life lesson, to give you some words of wisdom. Go back in that moment, and let's assume we could go back there, and you could sit and talk to your younger, former self. What would you say to that person?
Fail more. I think, and you kind of mentioned it earlier in our conversation. I think I know that I chase attainable goals. When you have those kind of internal goal settings, what am I going to get done? And those are good. Those are good to, achieve attainable goals and all that. But I think ultimately why I didn't chase bigger goals was because of the fear of failure. I had that fear growing up that, I didn't want to fail. No one wants to fail.
Right.
But I think now in my life, I chase it. What can I, where is the limit? And, where does that stop? And I think part of that, honestly, kind of thinking about it deeper right now, is I didn't get that opportunity, with football. I didn't get the opportunity to be told I wasn't good enough. I ended up just tearing my ACL 3 years in a row. It wasn't a nice collegiate career that I had. I just tore my ACL, got back, tore my ACL, got back, tore my ACL again. And, it was one of those where I wish, that unknown, I think that's, it's, and I'm thinking, I can't think of the quote right now, but it's not about what you fail. It's not about your failures, but it's what you didn't even chase, what you didn't try for. That's what's going to be, looking back on your deathbed. That's what you're going to regret. You don't regret the times you failed. You regret the chances you didn't take. And, I think if I could go back to younger me, I'd tell myself that earlier on, man, go out there and fail. Don't be afraid of it. Is it always going to work out the way you want it? No. But that's part of life. That's kind of the fun in it. There's got to be that balance. Without sadness, there's not really happiness. Without, failure, there's not really success. And, kind of being able to tell my younger self that, that for me would have been my biggest advice. Go out there and fail, because you know what? Life's going to go on, and you're going to learn from it. You're going to be just fine. But just go for it. Just go for it.
Well, and I think you said it best earlier. It connects so well with what you said earlier that, people who don't, they only try attainable goals. They do that because they have those limited beliefs, so self-limited beliefs about themselves. When you get out there and you're okay failing, and you're stretching yourself and trying things that you've never accomplished that seem insurmountable, challenges, you're facing challenges that seemed insurmountable. It's because you're taking away that self-limiting belief, and your ceiling is getting taller and taller. Your comfort zone is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I think for anybody out there who, when you right now think of the goals you have, and I did this, Kent, when I did my goals this year, I do them every December. I put my goals. I go through a 5-step process. I do it with my clients. I do it myself. And I sat down after my goals were done. I'm going through this 10X learning process with this training program I'm going through that and I started I was going through the training at the same time. I looked back, and they challenged my goals immensely and said, yeah, those are really good goals. And they're really good goals, but they're kind of bullshit goals too, because you know you're going to attain those goals with a little bit of effort, a little extra effort. So I dramatically increased my goals. I mean, beyond what I ever thought possible. And like 3 times on some of these things. I had 4 goals, and one of those I increased by 3-fold. And what happened right away, Kent, when you do that, and I think you've experiencing this, and this is kind of what you're saying, when you do that, you all of a sudden think you start thinking out of the box on how to accomplish those goals. When you set these attainable goals, you just follow what you've always done. But when you stretch your goals and go for things that are massive, you know you're going to fail during the process at times. You're going to fall down. But when you are going through the attainment of those big, extraordinary goals, you start thinking out of the box and trying to find interesting ways that you never would have thought of before to attain those goals. And it simplifies life. It really does. It seems like it makes it more complex, but when you start thinking out of the box, life becomes simple. It does. It doesn't become as complex as these small attainable goals. Because number one, you get bored with them. I get bored with those kind of things. But I did this year, despite all my coaching. I put my goals down, and I thought, oh, those are good goals for 24. And then when I was challenged on them, I thought, oh God, you're right. Those are really fucking easy goals, you know. And had I accomplished those goals and not changed them, my self-limiting beliefs would have taken hold. They would have gotten more. They would have gotten stronger. So I think that's extremely powerful. What's next for you?
Kind of keep on grinding. I like I kind of stated earlier, like I enjoy everything that I'm doing right now. And, I'm teaching at an alternative school right now. And, and I think my life and kind of going through those trials that I have, like, connects well with the kids. So I love where I'm at teaching, because I feel like I can make a difference in some of these kids' lives that I have. Continue to grow the business because, talking about those goals, it went from, oh, that'd be cool if I had 20 kids. Oh, it'd be cool if I had 50 kids, where, and again, there's ego involved in my statement I'm about to say, but like, I really do think I have an ability to connect with the kids and push them beyond their limiting beliefs, especially with math, because I feel like that's what draws me to teaching math. Is like there's so much, students lose so much self-confidence about their abilities, and they just don't think they can, and they don't think they're capable. And being able to work with those kids, I kind of tell the parents when they sign up for tutoring, I'm like, just so you know, like, I didn't change algebra. I'm not going to teach it any different, but it's that mindset. It's almost mindset coaching with these kids of like, nah, you can do this. Like, let's go. Like, kind of building that momentum up for them to, kind of become independent. That's the biggest goal for my business. And, when I think about that on the scale, like, I want to get to thousands. Like, I want to build up something that'll kind of help change kids' lives in that impact, and kind of getting a bigger level there. And yeah, like I'm doing success coaching now for people growing their tutoring businesses. And, there's a few that, they were able to, like, they're now living the life that they dreamed of. And kind of, I get to watch that evolution as they come in, not really confident with themselves, and kind of coaching them through those limiting beliefs and really breaking through and seeing that it's not just like possible, but it's probable if you continue to kind of put in the work. If you continue to make those improvements day by day, kind of things aren't just possible, they're probable. And because if you just keep going at it, like, the odds then start to flip in the favor of you will succeed. You will hit those goals. So what's next is I'm who knows? Like, that's the thing. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to hit some big goals. I'm excited to fail, but I'm going to fail forward and kind of see where I end up in the next, I guess my goals right now is 8 years. Where am I going to be in 8 years? And I turn 40.
Okay.
That's kind of my next, I guess, milestone that I've set for myself. Like, what can I get accomplished by the time I'm 40? And that's what I'm kind of chasing to figure out right now.
Question for you is, where the hell were you 40 years ago when I needed somebody to teach me math? And math was never natural for me, ever. At a certain age, when you're young, it's fairly simple. But when I got to a certain point, I didn't like it. And it seemed like every math teacher, and in college, every math or math related teacher, that was calculus, algebra, every trigonometry, every one of those were so boring, or I couldn't understand what they were saying, that I just lost interest. And, they never made it. They were challenging in the way that I didn't get it. So it challenged me, but they didn't challenge me. They didn't challenge me. They didn't get into my mind at all. They didn't make any customized coaching or teaching. It was all just get up there, talk, and then take your homework home, go, come back. We'll grade it. We'll take a test every 2 or 3 weeks. It was just so damn mundane. And I think math is such an important subject. It's incredibly important. And how many people, and I'm talking to the audience right now, how many of your children or your grandchildren, or you for that matter, if you're still a young person going through school, how many of you have lost the opportunity or are losing it or might lose it because the teacher you've had or have now or will have is just somebody who is just giving you the basic content of math and expecting you to figure it out without challenging you on a personal level to grow your mind and to reach that potential that you don't know you have right now. This is the kind of person right here that can help that. And I wish somebody like you was available, because math, I became a financial advisor. I got my degree in finance in college, Kent. I didn't even know what the hell and finance is a pretty math-based, career. I became an advisor for 5 years before I started coaching, and still sucked at math. And I remember taking like summer classes in college. I think it was a calculus class, and I literally sat there for 3 hours twice a week in a summer class for 4 or 5 weeks, whatever summer school is. And I literally could understand maybe 5 words every 3 hours that this guy would say. They were hiring people that, that I couldn't even understand what he was saying. And they were just going through the motions of giving you the content and expecting you to figure it out. And I remember that being the worst class I ever took, the most disheartening class I ever took in my life, from college, high school, whatever. Because I just felt like such a failure when I was done. Like, I got out of the summer school. I think I got a C-, and I don't even know how I got that. And I got done going back up to the UP to work for the rest of the summer before I went back to fall semester. And I remember thinking, what a failure I am. And it wasn't that I was a failure. It was just that I didn't understand the concept, and he was not willing to teach it and help me to understand it. And the whole class, I had a buddy of mine that was in there with me. He felt the same way. He felt like just such a failure when it was done. So I'm happy there are people like you out there taking young people at a young age, an impressionable age, and teaching them a very important concept of math. Because it's, people always say, well, you'll never use math the rest of your life. Bullshit. You use it every day of your life. And a lot of it is even what I in critical thinking, you use math. You use math every single day. And despite the fact that we carry a calculator on our phones and we can figure everything out online now, it doesn't matter. Math is a way of teaching the intellectual side of your brain, giving it a tool that it can use no matter what you do in life. So it's good to have a person like you doing it. Go ahead.
Can I add something? Right?
Oh, yeah.
You kind of said that, and I think that's one thing that math teachers, and again, no disrespect to math teachers out there everywhere. I am one of you. But I think it's become, it always comes, it seems to come so natural to them that when they try to explain it to someone else, it's almost like, well, yeah, if you've ever heard this, those listening, just look at your notes. It's right there. And I think, I think they have the best intention at heart, but I think it's so easy for them that, they kind of just make the assumption like, oh, well, it's the answer's right there. How doesn't this make sense? And you kind of, to add to that the way I kind of coach kids, and I call it kind of coaching besides, I guess, tutoring, but it's for a lot of these kids, this is their first kind of challenge in life. That's how I kind of see it. It's their first thing that hasn't really come easy that they have to overcome. And that's where I guess that's where my passion really comes in, is digging deep with the kids on a personal level of well, here we've hit an obstacle. This is hard. How are we, what are our choices here? Are we going to then, push through, overcome and face adversity on and, overcome these challenges? Or are we going to start to program our life into, when things get hard, we're going to try to avoid it? And that's where I think I see the biggest impact with my students, as far as for me, is that, and don't get me wrong, I think math is an important skill and all that, but I really think that what got me into math and tutoring and working with kids is that it's their first challenge. It's their first challenge that they hit, that it doesn't come easy, and they have to then kind of start to develop those habits of overcoming adversity. What are you going to do at that point? Are we going to, persevere through this, or are we going to try to avoid it? And then I correlate that, with life. What are you going to then do with the next problem that comes? Are you going to figure out a way to overcome, or are you going to try to avoid it? And that's for me, I guess the bigger impact of what I'm doing is really coaching these kids up to fight through adversity and, perseverance.
Well, I like the fact that you call it coaching versus tutoring. I think that right there is very symbolic of the way you approach your clients, the students, the young people, because tutoring has this kind of, we're going to sit down and we're just going to go through the math problems themselves. Coaching is a broader scope process. And I do think there's a beauty to that. And yeah, no disrespect to math teachers out there. I think most of you doing a fantastic job, and it's a job that I could never do. I will say some disrespect to some of the ones I had who didn't try back in my day, for sure. And I look at it I never thought about it this way. And that was a really good point, that math it probably is for most students, the first big academic challenge they have in their lives, because other things are a little, I don't know if it's simpler, but literature, perhaps art, those are things that are just we kind of know those things. We can draw with a crayon when we're 1.5 years old. We've already done some art. We've had our parents read to us potentially. We know what books are, but when math comes into our lives, we're like, what the hell is this thing? You don't know what it is. It's a brand new demon that you have to face now. And so I think when you have a teacher, a coach like you, when you have a teacher who might just push it through and say, you should understand this because I understand it. But that's like trying to read hieroglyphics. If you don't get it, you don't get it. You can look at it and it might seem obvious to a teacher, but it doesn't seem obvious to the student. And they don't see it as there's a grander goal here. We're not just teaching them math. You're teaching them to overcome an adversity. And you're giving them a tool and a process to overcome their first real, at least academic challenge in their lives, for the most part, for most people. And that's a tool, like we talked about earlier. You get that one win at a young age, that can catapult to bigger wins as you get older and older and progress in life. So I think it's great what you're doing, brother. I really do. I like your approach. I didn't even know your approach until just today. So,
well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So as we wrap up, final question: is there any question, Kent, that I didn't ask that you wish I would have, or is there any final message you want to leave with the Bamboo Pack?
I think the final message, and we've kind of had it throughout, but the final, I guess, call it a lesson, something that I've learned through, and I didn't want to go off forever on the ups and downs, because I've had a lot of other downs in my life and, peaks and valleys. But, kind of understanding that appreciation is like a learned skill. And we've kind of already hit this. It's something that you have to practice. Because if you're focused on the negatives, you're going to only see negatives. But if you focus on those positives, you're going to start to find more positives in your life, and kind of like my slogan, I guess, is it's a great day to have a great day. And I truly believe that every day that I wake up, like I said, if you need a start to the positivity, you steal mine, please. And that checklist on the first one of my checklist is, and I know I'll do this for the rest of my life until, well, I can't. Did I wake up? And if you woke up, you have another day, and I think that's something that we need to kind of learn, that is something to appreciate, because people think of it as a negative when, you could die tomorrow. I could die today heading home, from my way to work or home from work. And I think people put that as like a sad, and they want to get like kind of sad thinking about that. But when you really think of it, like, that's the reality. That is the truth. But it also is like, oh, well, how lucky am I that, I do have this day. And when you wake up tomorrow, you do have tomorrow. And I guess the last thing I'll kind of say, because you're talking about Facebook posts, this is one that I posted kind of recent, because I was hearing people talk about entitlement. And, they were complaining about the kids being entitled. And, the people that I was listening to, they kind of said, in a few years here, I can't wait to watch the change. They're kind of future pacing of how they believe that specifically the United States was going to kind of make a change. And it got me reflecting and thinking, like, I think they have the biggest entitlement themselves, is they think they're entitled to tomorrow. They're getting all worked up. They're having what they see on the news. They're having what they see on Facebook and Instagram and all the other apps. Like, they're letting that ruin their day, and they believe they're entitled to tomorrow. And I think that's the biggest entitlement of anything, is for us to believe that we assume that tomorrow is just a given. So, kind of to anyone still listening to me rant about it, just know that today is a gift, and learn to appreciate it, and you'll kind of start to see your life. Like I said, that's what got me out of my lowest spots. And I know that if you learn to appreciate everything that you do have, and you start to focus on those positives, your life's going to start to correlate in the direction you want it to.
So I can't think of a better way to end this podcast, but I am going to directly quote you, because I'm reading your post right now. Folks, this is from February 7th. Kent's post is, I hear a lot of people complain about the entitlement these days. They'll rant about how unfair the world is. The biggest entitlement that I see is not enjoying their life today because they think they are entitled to a tomorrow. Bingo. That's all about appreciation. I got to read one more quote that I love that you put on here. Become so passionate about something that even your mom gets sick of hearing about it. And honestly, my friend, this is the stuff that really drew me to your social media site, and really wanted me to bring you on the show. And honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I met you one time at the wedding, and we have not talked until 10 minutes before we started recording today. You have exceeded my expectations and my hopes for today.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad that I could. I'm glad that you enjoyed kind of a little bit of my life and what I've learned thus far.
Well, I'm going to ask everybody out there, please reach out to me. I mean, Kent shared some very vulnerable parts of his life to us, and he shared with us some incredible wisdom on how he used the act of appreciation and the grind to really supersede those moments, those dark moments, those low moments, and is now building such a much better life for himself, his family, his students, and then eventually the entire world, I believe. And in this podcast, you're going to reach a lot of people around the globe, Kent. And I'm hoping and I believe fully that a lot of people are going to go, holy shit, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's really all we're trying to do today, is share a little bit of hope with people out there through your story, your experience, and your wisdom. So I just want to take the time to thank you so much for being, I always use the term inspiring guest, but in this time, I'm trying to think of a better word, but for lack of a better word, my limited mind right now can't think of one. I just want to thank you for being such an inspiring guest on the Bamboo Lab podcast.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Hey, we're going to do this again,
Yeah, I hope so, and just for anyone listening, know that, that poor kid from Flat Rock, if I can do it, if I can, kind of find those things, you can too. I know it.
Amen, brother. You are doing it. All right. So everybody out there, I want to give a quick shout out to two young people who are, by the time this airs, are enjoying the beautiful beaches of Oahu in Hawaii. My son Dawson and his beautiful girlfriend Audrey are sitting in Hawaii right now for 7 days, 8 days. And I know they're listening. So all I'm going to say is, guys, have a great time. Make some beautiful memories. And I would love to see a picture sent back of Dawson in a grass skirt. So Audrey, that's your job. I want to see coconut bikini on his top, and I want to see him in a grass skirt. So that's your only job. Anyway, I love you both. Have a great time. And everybody out there, please, thank you for joining us. This was an amazing episode. I didn't know what to expect. It superseded all of my expectations having Kent on here today. I'm going to ask you to please smash that like button. Please rate us, review us, and please share this with 3 people you love. Kent's story, Kent's wisdom, his experiences can change lives. And so if you love somebody out there and say, this person could benefit from this, send it to them. Email it, call them, say, hey, jump on this podcast, listen to it. And by all means, let me know how you think. Go to the website, bamboolab3.com, and find my email on there and shoot me an email. For those of you who know me and have my cell phone number, text me. Send a letter, send a card. We love to get your heart letters. I want to know what you guys felt about this podcast and how it's changing your life. I'll talk to you all in 1 week. In the meantime, please get out there and strive to give and be your best every single day. Please show love and respect to others, but also remember to share it with yourself. Give yourself some grace. And also get out there and live intentionally, live consciously, show appreciation, and enjoy the grind. I love you all and appreciate you all. Until next time.